Hi, everyone, and welcome to Heal Endometriosis Naturally with Wendy K Laidlaw. Wendy has spent the last 2 years helping women with various stages of endometriosis to heal naturally after putting her condition into remission. After her own healing success from stage 4 endometriosis and adenomyosis, she's inspired to heal others, and her goal is to help some of the 175 million women know that there is another way other than painkillers, drugs, or surgery. This is the place to be for real talk with real people for real results, so you can learn how to heal your endometriosis naturally. Please note that the opinions expressed in this program may represent options, but are not a substitute for proper medical care. Before starting any new healthcare program, we recommend you consult with a health professional.
Hey everyone, it's Wendy K Laidlaw, and as always, I do hope that this video and podcast finds you well. I haven't been on for a while, and it's probably because, to be honest, there's lots happening. Change is imminent. Change is something that I think scares us all, but actually, if we can try and flip that and try and feel curious and excited and optimistic about what change might mean for us, then we can really lean into life rather than feel fearful of it. I think there's this tendency for, especially the more sensitive women in this world, to live in this state of fear rather than facts. And this is something I'm going to be talking about over the next wee while. And then moving from facts into faith, and then, dare I say, the 3-letter swear word of fun. And I was thinking about this the other day because there's big changes going on with myself. There's going to be changes going on with my business. I'm going to be looking to change how it's set up. I may be sunsetting some elements of it. So as a side note, if you are thinking about applying to work with me, my team, over 12 months, then you pretty much want to think about applying in the next couple of months, because as I say, there's some elements of a business I'm going to sunset as I step into a whole new era, because I actually realized the other day it's been 10 years that I have been serving women with endometriosis, sharing what worked for me, feeling so inspired to tell women that there was another way. So change is inevitable, isn't it? I mean, if you think of the seasons, you think of nature, there's the spring, the summer, the autumn, and the winter, and these different seasons happen for a reason. You tend to kind of lay seeds down in the spring, you reap the fruits or the labor of those seeds in the summer, and then you allow the ground to settle, and then of course it rests through winter, and then you start the cycle again. And again, it is a bit like that for us as humans. I think there's a natural tendency for us to want to cling to what feels safe and secure, but that's an illusion. That's not reality, and this is why I'm talking about coming from fear into fact. When we're little, obviously we don't have a clue about what's happening in the world, and we get told fairy tales and they always have happy endings. And then we take on beliefs and elements that we think are going to provide elements of security, especially if we've grown up in families of origin that didn't provide us that sense of security, and we didn't learn how to tap into ourselves to get that internal security. Because to be perfectly honest, the only secure relationship you're ever going to have is with yourself, and the only sense of stability and security you're ever going to get is with yourself. But when you recognize we have different parts to ourselves, then that can also create a little bit of, I guess I want to say fear, but it shouldn't be fear. It should be curiosity. And I wanted today is, I was, as you know, I'm a huge advocate of journaling in the morning, because it allows you to get to know yourself. Ultimately, if you're kind of at a point in your life where you're like, okay, my body's still screaming at me, what should I do? And you've tried everything else, you tried the mainstream medical route, it's not working for you, and you've tried naturopaths and nutritionists, it's not working for you. Please do not despair. as you know, if you've read my books and been following me for a while, I talk about the whole woman, the whole body, whole person. And within that comes many different parts of you. And what I mean by that is, your younger, more vulnerable parts, they still reside within you. You might have tried to sever them in your adolescence, in your teenage years. You might have felt shame or guilt because I always remember there was a time in my life where I was sat at the bottom of the stairs going, I should be over this by now, over this being an element of my past. And I had to go and do some deeper work. And I'll be honest, it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I kind of poked it with a stick, with a therapist. And then, I didn't really get to the roots of what it was that was a wound that I didn't even really know was a wound, or I didn't even know that it was worthy of calling it a wound. I just kind of shut up and shoved it down. And this is where I feel women with endometriosis in particular, especially the very sensitive ones, they tend to shove down into the heart of the South, into the womb, the wounds and the pain and the hurt, and tend to be incredibly stoic and progressive and a driver, and the type of women that just kind of want to tune into everybody else, help everybody else, but don't quite know how to turn that 180 degrees round to themselves. And of course, if you've not realized this already, it's super scary because there's some beliefs that have been internalized. There's some parts that feel that to go inward, you're going to meet some ugly parts of yourself. And I just want to assure you, there's no ugly parts. There might be some really frustrated parts and angry parts and wounded parts, as I say, but there is no ugly there, in my opinion. I've yet to meet someone that is, inverted commas, dark and ugly. And I know that there's these psychological theories about our shadow parts and stuff, and I don't really like that term. I think it came from Carl Jung, and I don't like that term because it makes you want to run away from it even more. And kind of what I'm saying is, like, we are like all the different colors of the rainbow. We have all these different elements, these different perspectives to us, these multidimensional parts to us. And the parts work was absolutely crucial to me. And it was something that I learned from this couple called Hal and Sidra Stone, who were a psychologist, and they got together and they developed this work. And there's certain psychological theories here in the UK. I think it's internal family systems. I don't relate to that. It's not something that I like. I don't like the idea of internalizing my family or my parents in me. That just doesn't work for me. But the parts work that they talked about, and I've since developed it further myself, really resonated with me. AKA that there are younger parts of you that at different ages and different stages, I use the analogy of, like, now at this age and stage, you are the driver of your bus. And behind you and all the seats are different ages and different stages of you. And they have different needs and different wants and different desires. And how can you get those needs met? Because there are very specific needs that need to be met at different times, at different stages, with different things that are going on in your life, different relationships, different jobs, different all these different elements that go on in one's life, especially in this day and age when everybody's telling you what you should be doing and should be thinking and who you should be and what you should be doing. There's just too much information out there. So if you are on social media and you find yourself trying to numb out through social media, I would encourage you to just put a timer on your phone, even if it's 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Note how you feel before you go into social media, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it is for you. And then put a timer, put several timers on, and then note how you feel when you come off. Because my encouragement for you is to come inward. I would rather encourage you to, when we're trying to get to the heart, the heart of the South, and get to the heart of the problem, it is coming inward, and what I found is through identifying the parts and doing more art and being more creative. The creative elements of you have been probably stunted or shoved into the shadows or put down into the basement, and a door firmly closed on them. And this is why I don't like this terminology, your shadow self, because I believe we're made up of multiple selves. Yeah, and I was journaling the other morning there, and I just kind of wanted to share what came up. And it's just another way to kind of like explain what I mean by parts and see if that resonates with different parts of you. Because if you're not getting a pain-free body and a healthy body and a peace of mind, because I'm not a huge advocate for this searching for happiness malarkey. I think that's, I think I'd rather you search for peace of mind, serenity, joy, feeling alive, pain-free, energetic, self-assured, inner confidence. That, if that's what you want to call happy, then call happy. But I think there's this it's because it's the journey that we're on. There is no such thing per se as the destination. What we're looking to do is our journey as women, as you know, I put this condition in remission now 10 years ago. I can't believe it's 10 years already. And I'm still pain-free, symptom-free, have nothing. It's amazing how many emails we'll get in, and it's like, but do you still have adenomyosis? Nope. Do you still have endometriosis? No. Do you still have cysts? No. Nothing. No chronic fatigue, no thyroid issues, no nothing. Diddly squat. And I really do hope when you hear this that you find this inspiring. Like, if you know my story, it was 33 years that was just not even suffering. It was chronic, debilitating misery, depression, high levels of pain. I mean, pain doesn't even begin to go there, which is why I felt so driven to do what I've done over the past 10 years. But equally, I recognize it's time for change for me too. And I recognize, as I'm talking about change, that if you are not getting the results that you want quickly enough, then it's an inside job. You need to come inward. And I've always encouraged women, again, it's very systematic. As you know, we look at the 5 Ps, the 5 poisons, the produce, the products, the property. These are kind of the easy bits, to be honest, but they take a bit of time and work. And it's amazing how even the smallest thing, when your body's inflamed, can make it worse. And then people and past. Those are the challenging things, and that's where you need a team of people, ideally. I've learned as I've got older, I'll go and I'll pay, even though I was, putting on credit cards, and I obviously don't encourage that if you can't afford it. But I recognize that, if I want to get a result quickly, then I have to pay. At the moment, I'm doing some other business ventures, and I'm having to invest in myself and having to pay the experts to get where I want to go quickly. I could probably figure it out myself, but it would take me a long time, like it did with endometriosis. It took me a long time to figure it out. So I encourage everyone to come back into themselves, because actually you have all the answers. Sometimes you need an external person just to give you the confidence to listen to yourself, because you may have been surrounded by people who try to undermine, try to snuff out your light. And that's why I don't like, I'll come back to that Carl Jung thing of your shadow self. I'm not a fan of that at all, because it makes it out that there is this good and bad. And we're very complex, very simple, but also very complex humans. And as I say, I think there's always a fear with women, especially with endometriosis, especially very sensitive people, women that really do care a lot about other and put out that sensitivity, that there's something fundamentally flawed and bad about them. And there isn't. Okay, there isn't. In my experience of working with hundreds and hundreds of women now, it's what's been projected onto you that you need to shed. It's kind of like an old cloak, damp, smelly cloak that's been put on you that, we help you get rid of, and you see the light and the bright that's there within you naturally. So I wanted to read kind of what I'd put in my journal, because I felt it was maybe another way of explaining the parts work. And we get some really lovely emails, and thank you to those who have emailed in and sharing their thanks. It means so much to me, and it means so much to everyone else, and it does help us keep going. As I say, there's going to be changes shortly because it's time for me to go onto new horizons, and I'll share more about that another time. But yeah, so I'm going to start by just kind of reading out. It said, I saw a wonderful video on Instagram about some of the nicest and wisest people have a large apartment inside of themselves, inside to allow space for all the different parts of them. From uncomfortable parts to the rebellious parts to the perfect parts to the beautiful parts. They all have a voice. They all have a room and a chair at the table. It's a partnership model of living and a true balanced democracy, especially in this high, crazy world of you know what with you know who. No dictatorship, no tyrant, no one submissive, no martyrs either. And that's what I've really learned about the body. The body makes signs and symptoms when it is out of alignment. In terms of the heart, your inner desires that you might feel fearful about, and what it means to make a decision or stand that external family or friends don't like. But it's not a case of just flipping from long suffering to defiant. That creates its own problems. It's those ant-sized steps. As you know, if you've worked with me or heard me before, I don't talk about baby steps. They're far too big when we're healing the body or we're making changes. I talk about ant-sized steps. Minuscule little shifts in thoughts and seeing and believing and beliefs and actions. What it feels like for parts in the apartment and meeting them all around the table and hearing their thoughts. Some parts might be hiding in the basement, mouching away, mourning away in a very bad mood, wanting to burn the whole building down with everyone in it. Others might be in the attic and covered in cobwebs and be dreams from our childhood who feel sad and neglected and forlorn. Like dried out pieces of wood feeling like they could crumble and disappear at any time. The body is the outer shell, like the apartment block. It shows signs, it gives signals, it creates real symptoms when the internal parts are imbalanced or out of alignment. If you don't go into the basement and deal with the damp and the mold and the rot, it literally eats away from the ground up and undermines the structure of the self and the body. The damp, etc., are the old and outdated beliefs and conditioning imposed by parents and school and friends and society and culture, work colleagues, and the greater environment. The climate and the environment play a big part in your thoughts and feelings too, and also, of course, your body. For example, I'm in my favorite place in the south of Spain, and my body is joyful, to say the least. Whilst it is a fresh February, it is actually 18 to 20 degrees, probably more than what Scotland gets in its so-called summer. In Scotland, it's currently -2, and my children are being battered by what we joke about in the weather terms, the three horsemen: the high winds, the lashing rains, and the piercing cold, and the unpredictability of the assault of the weather, which means they are under 4 and 5 layers of clothing and stay mainly indoors. Here, I wear maybe 1 layer. Today, I'm just wearing a shirt, not my old faithful jumper and 5 or 6 layers. And I walk everywhere, for hours, and I love being outside. It also influences what I eat, making it easier to be drawn to beautiful hams and cheeses and tuna and vegetables, and of course, the occasional gluten-free chocolate brownie. But despite the years of learning and yearning to live in a stable, temperate country that has weather that is pleasant and predictable, I also wanted a culture, and this is important to me and my body, that actually values women and children and knows how to celebrate life through these endless fiestas that are on, and also celebrates balance in one's life through afternoon siestas and shops clothing on a Sunday. I mean, I come from a country where everything is on all the time and open all the time, and this pressure and this toxic environment where it's expected that if you're not working, you're a bad person. And if you're not doing 12 to 18 hours a day, you're a bad person and you're lazy. So coming to somewhere in Europe like this with these values is really aligned to me and all my parts. In Scotland, everything is on and open all the time. And we only literally have one celebration a year, and that's at Hogmanay. And the celebrations involves lots of alcohol and getting horribly drunk and poisoning your liver. And the belief system is just to work harder and harder and faster and faster. And that it's lazy to rest and recuperate, that it's selfish to consider yourself and be a martyr and kill yourself considering others at the expense of yourself. I notice it more and more each time I go back onto UK soil from the Spanish soil. I actually notice the rage and the anger that's under my feet in the soil of the environment for centuries, how toxic the environment is, how the conversation revolves around how foul the weather is all the time. All we talk about is the weather. How incredulous people are that we've had 4 seasons in one morning and that they went out in a white outfit, rookie error, and came back looking like a drowned rat and in see-through clothing. No dangly earrings, for you may be scarred for life from the whiplash as the winds whip up the earrings and assault you across the face. No, that's not for me. But once one has brought all the parts to the table, you then need to have a trio of wiser counsel to hear and integrate so all parts feel part of the decisions and don't secretly sabotage from within. Those 3 parts I call the parent part. Note, not a mother or a father. A part that you can look outwards and that you can take pieces of other people who are kind and loving and nice into yourself. You can almost kind of internalize that lovely voice that you've heard once or twice and be your own inner kind, loving champion. Then your heart and soul part, who keeps you being true to the real you, pulling you out of the velvet rut that you might be in and keeping from calling the soul to grow. Then what I refer to as a higher power or universal source, that energy. It doesn't really matter if you're not religious or you have a particular religion you believe in. It's the essence of what that means for you. So I don't believe in a man's in a white tunic sitting on a cloud, okay? But I do believe there's this universal energy, and it has absolutely got me to this point and guided me through my journaling and things as well. So don't get hung up on that. If those words and terminologies don't relate to you, find something that works for you. I like universal source, but it's like an energy and a magnetism of the earth. You can feel it. You know, if you're a woman with endometriosis, you have this high degree, this exquisitely high degree of sensitivity, this ability to tune in to your environment, to look at a wounded animal and feel its pain, or to be out in nature and feel it being absorbed into your cells. You have that. So whatever that is for you, you know, fumble around, find a name that works for you. For me, I like this kind of universal energy, that truth that is felt in your cells, your flesh, and your bones. Those 3 parts, the parent part, the heart and soul part, and this higher energy part, allow for the middle ground. They are the kind of, they hear all the parts at the table, they take notes, and they try to, instead of us trying to appease those people out there, which is not our responsibility to do, we try and appease our own inner parts. And that is a full-time job in itself. So finding that middle ground and action to be taken and heard by scribbling on paper every day. And this is why I'm a huge advocate. And I wanted to kind of read out my journal. This just kind of like, I wrote 8 pages this morning, and I was just kind of wanting to get really clear again for those women that might be stuck. You know, it's kind of like, oh, if they're thinking, or you're thinking, what am I doing wrong? You're not doing anything wrong. It's a journey. You're on this EndoBoss pathway now, and it takes time. But when we're coming inward, we're literally, as I say, going into this huge apartment block. And we have parts in the basement, we have parts in the roof, and obviously we have parts in all the different floors, and they all have their own room. But we have this big table where we're going to invite our parts to the table. And it might sound a bit weird. And the first time I kind of heard it, it was a wee bit kind of, not sure if it was a wee bit too woo-woo for me. As I say, I don't like the internal family system. That doesn't work for me. And I know some women have been put off by that. So again, find something, a way. As I say, this is what worked for me, and I'm sharing it with you, and you make it your own. But coming every day onto the paper is a way to hear your parts. It's a starting block. It's a starting place. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't journal. I sometimes journal several times a day. I find that I get incredible insights. I had another huge insight this morning. I'm like, oh, never thought of that. And it came on the paper. And it's almost like the pen is a conduit from say, that energetic source, that those instincts, that intuition, that connection. Because if you're constantly living in fight, flight, and freeze, fold, and you're constantly stressed, your brain can't think. You can't separate from who and what is around you because of your high degree of sensitivity. And I'm going to be doing more on super sensitive secret strength, because I think that's an area of focus for me that might give the likes of yourselves more release and comfort learning about. Because I think there's this feeling of, for me to heal, I have to stop being sensitive. No, that's not what we advocate. In fact, quite the opposite. It's leaning into your sensitivity, but recognizing its strength and how to protect that. That's ultimately what the aim is. So there's so much static in the air in our lives. If your body is screaming in denial right now, then you need to redial and tune in. It's kind of like a radio station. You tune in to another station. If there's lots of static on the station, you just keep moving that dial. And that's basically what you're kind of doing on this journey. I'm sure the idea of me even suggesting change feels like, no, I'm fine, Wendy. I don't even want to think about it. Everything's fine. Well, there's actually a number of things that aren't fine. And invariably, it's your environment. Invariably, it's your relationships. Invariably, it's probably your career, or your environment that you're working in, or perhaps perhaps elements of your past. And I say that because there's a lot of light in you that's not getting the ability to shine, and it's not in the right relationship to be respected, to shine. It's not in the right environment to breathe, to shine. It's not in the right career where you're being celebrated for your talents and your gifts, to shine. So this is why I talk about kind of writing first, and then just that allows you to tune in without feeling overwhelmed. I started by talking about parts in your apartment, and have mentioned this many times before, but I hope that this analogy helps to provide a wider concept. Pain in the body, especially in the pelvis, in the heart of the south. I just want you to think about that. When you see a picture of the uterus, it is the heart of the south of your pelvis in your body. In my opinion, it is, the pains, the wounds, the past, the trauma, the upset, the fear, the anger, the suppression, all these things have been shoved down. And your body is this, some people refer to the body as your subconscious. And what I mean by that is, I'm talking to you from my conscious level right now. When I was journaling, it was like literally my subconscious just dumping down. And sometimes, like, our subconscious, obviously, it regulates our heartbeat and our lungs and so many different elements within the body. But if we're not in tune with our subconscious is going to try and speak to us. That's why if you think what endometriosis is, it's a hormonal imbalance, and it's an inflammatory disease. So given that your body is always wanting to heal itself and naturally rebalance, that's when we flip it to go, well, what is preventing that from happening? And in my experience, it's invariably the emotional component, that there's been a bit of detachment from self for safety's sake. It's like an electrical fuse box. If you put too much electricity through it, we've got fuse boxes in Scotland that automatically switch off when there's a surge of power. And that's kind of what happens to the brain. So if there's too much switching off, or there's not been the environment in which to safely tune into yourself, or an encouraging person or place or people, then it goes down into the body, and then the body then starts to give you signs and signals as to kind of, we need to do something different. And of course, there's conflict. So how do you deal with that conflict? Well, you start, as I say, ant-sized steps with pen on paper. And I get that it's very scary to do that. So start small. Um, so yeah, so I started talking about parts in the apartment and have mentioned this many times before, but I hope this analogy helps to provide a wider concept. Pain in the body, especially in the pelvis, in the heart of the South, in my opinion, is shoved down deep, traumatic pain from the past, and maybe trauma or whatever's going on in the moment. And again, try not to be scared of that, because what might be deemed traumatic to one person might not be deemed traumatic to another. It could just be something. Francine Shapiro wrote a fantastic book called Getting Past the Past. Again, I encourage you to go and read that book. It explains beautifully how life events, even small or might be perceived small things, can take up residence in our body and in our minds and in our subconscious and keep playing out in different ways. It's a wonderful book. And one of the first stories it talks about is this beautiful woman who just never felt confident and secure. And she always ended up attracting toxic people into her life, having relationships with them. And she would end up feeling like losing herself and overly attaching, like having almost a trauma bond to these people who couldn't ever give her what she needed. Because she didn't really know what she needed, but they were toxic, narcissistic, unpleasant partners who were never going to give her what she wanted. And then there's this example where she says that you would cling to their ankles as they were leaving, as the relationship ended, and sort of begging them not to leave. And after she did EMDR therapy, she recognized that it was when she was little. There was a thunderstorm one night and she was really scared, and she called out to her parents and they never came. Now, that was just one small memory, but moving through that, processing that, recognizing that, allowed her to start to feel, well, of course they didn't come to me that night because they probably didn't hear me, but it wasn't representative of me feeling worthless or having no value. And I'm sharing this because look how, inverted commas, small that was, but then look how it'd taken up residence in her body to the point that it became certain beliefs. She started to look out for validation of those beliefs, that she was worthless. She would attract or take poor behavior because she didn't value herself. So you can see how all these things kind of knock on. So yes, I believe it's traumatic pain from the past. When this was first suggested to me, I felt very scared. And so I'm saying, please recognize that what might be viewed as trauma in the body might not necessarily be viewed by trauma. Whether you view thunder and lightning as a traumatic experience, that's up to the individual. And it's really important not to shame yourself or allow anyone else to shame you. So I felt scared that I had somehow failed. How come I was holding trauma and not dealt with it already? B, that I'd somehow deserved it. Like, maybe I was being punished for something I'd done in a former life or doing now that was terrible. C, that I couldn't go there, to the trauma to process. I thought I'd get eaten up by it. Like I said earlier, I wasn't sure what I was going to see. And that I'd be stuck for life in pain, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So I'm sharing this. There's these golden nuggets that I'm sharing with you, that if you can even just write them down and sit with them and feel in your own body how they sit with you, as in terms of writing, thinking about your own apartment block with all the different parts, give them your own name, think about what their energy is like, what their needs are, what are their aspirations and their dreams, what are they calling for. I was also drowning in pain 10 years ago, but my ant-sized step was to pour my fears, concerns, beliefs and frustrations, irritations, angry and upset onto paper. It was scary because what if I was to be struck down by God? I wasn't, if you believe in God. Although I've since concurred, I grew up in the Presbyterian kind of very God-fearing Scottish Presbyterian church, which was God knows your thoughts and you're going to be punished in hell. So I had to get over that. And interestingly, over time, my God or my universal energy, whatever you want to call it, is a kind one. It isn't going to strike you down and punish you. It's loving, kind, encouraging, not a punisher. As marketed by unkind, domineering, perhaps parents. And B, what if someone read it? Well, they shouldn't. A, it's private. So make sure to keep it locked away. And if anyone is being nosy, tell a slight fib and to deter the nosy Parkers that you are just recording details about your physical symptoms. It is not a time to share with anyone, by the way, when you're starting to write about your feelings and emotions, especially when you start to feel that, oh God, like I'm not even really sure I like this friend that I thought I've known since childhood, or I'm not really sure my work colleague is as nice as I thought, that you might start to feel a bit nervous about actually putting that on paper. So to deter, if you're in a partnership or at home or whatever, and you're with people who might see you journaling, it's a good protection. Remember I said we're not looking about getting rid of your sensitivity, we're looking to protect it. And it's perfectly okay because you will be writing about your body as well, but you don't have to tell everybody everything. As this is one of many elements of protection. Write down what's coming up for you, what you notice. Try just to be curious about it. Go, oh, that's interesting, but try not to judge it. Especially if you're in a relationship, it's not a time to share with anyone. And I mean, not even your partner or your parents, not anyone. What is being uncovered inside? Some may feel threatened. Some of your people around about you, because you are the light, because you're the care, might feel very threatened by you getting well and wanting to change your environment, your relationships, your career, etc. Some may profess love, but it's really control and compliance and submission that they seek for you. And to grow, it definitely upsets some people. That was really challenging for me. You know, people use this word love, and actually, it wasn't my definition of love. So again, use this time in your life. Your body is calling you for change, and you can do this. If I can do this, I know you can do this. But change upsets the apple cart for a lot of people. If you've always been played this role in this work environment or relationship or in the family or things like that, and you're changing, most people fear change and seek change in equal measure, but very few people, and we have to be the change we want to be. We have to change because our bodies, like I said at the beginning, our bodies just can't tolerate it. You know, we can't shove it down and suck it up because then we become ill. So our journey is to increase our awareness, look at what's coming down in information, become curious about it and explore. You don't have to make any decisions about anything, by the way. It's really important to remember that. And get safe counsel. And I mean safe in terms of you should never be going to a therapist or a coach or a counselor and they're telling you what to do under any circumstances. Again, some people get into the profession for the wrong reasons. There's a saying in Scotland, the tall poppies get their heads cut off, which means if you get too above your station, aka you're looking to change your role within the family dynamics, then you'll get buffaloed down, you'll get your head chopped off. So be sensible. Start with a small A5 journal, okay? If you're worried about, start writing, in my opinion. But writing, my opinion, is the fastest, safest, and most secure and succinct way to go into your apartment, especially your attic and basement, and hear the parts. Just notice, just be curious, and just write. When the world and the people in it have taught you to swallow down your feelings or conform or to stop questioning their bad behavior, parts go into hiding. It's survival. Wounded, lost, lonely parts feel all at sea with no one to see them. But I want to reassure you, you are not alone. If you've been listening to this podcast, which has been going on since 2018 now, you know you have all the ingredients to heal naturally. If it's not happening in the way that you want or fast enough, consider pen on paper every morning and at night as well, but definitely in the morning. It's the fastest, cheapest way to the real you. Especially, I recommend EMDR therapy, as I mentioned earlier, but encourage you to interview as many therapists and counselors as possible. Please do not take the first person that you reach out to. This is where you're starting to listen to your parts, recognize your value and your worth. You might feel really uncomfortable interviewing people. Again, I encourage you to make an appointment with our head coach and have a chat with her and then go and speak to other people and come back, and you'll recognize the difference. You'll recognize that my coaches care and my coaches listen, and we call it coaching. We actually coaching and listening, but we're always putting it back to you, but we're always being your biggest cheerleaders as well. So yeah, whereas I encourage you to interview as many people as possible, and never ever share your journal entries with a therapist or a coach or a counselor or anyone. And watch out for the wolf in sheep's clothing who enter the profession. Fairy tales do tell some truths. There are dark forces out there who take up professions for power and control and deadened their heart a long time ago. Your number one priority is to protect your own heart and use your parts to guide you as to who is super safe. And I mean super safe. And even if someone appears safe to start with and then does something that doesn't make you feel safe, it's very important for you to listen to that. For your super sensitive parts, to help guide you to your secret strength in many aspects, but in healing your body primarily. Once you can heal your body by listening to your parts, then the world literally is your oyster. Now, just make sure to keep going and recognize it's a complex condition, but it's also a calling. It's an opportunity for you to make changes. And I get it's scary. Even saying the word change, I can feel parts of me going, oh no, I just want to stay the same. And I also feel emotion because I know that the next stage of my journey is sunsetting some elements of this business to move forward into others, so I can be more creative and I can be more explorative and be more curious in other areas of my life. And I know it's the same for you too. So wherever you are on the journey, don't you ever give up. It's a tough journey, but I know you can do it. I've created as many tools as I can to give you the encouragement and the steps that you need to keep moving forward. I'm constantly thinking of different ideas and how I can repurpose what I've already done to get out to more people. As I say, though, I'm also looking at changing direction myself. But for yourself, if you recognize the wee itchings of change that you kind of know deep down you need to make, whether it's in your relationship and it scares you, like what does that mean? And in your work, or if you're with your friends and family, just start with ant-sized steps. Now, as I say, I've created the Morning Wisdom Journal, which is available on Amazon. You can start using that as a book to record your journey. It gives you little prompts and daily reminders and things as well. It just gives you some sort of structure if you feel that just writing an A5 journal is a bit odd or you're a bit uncomfortable with that. There's the cookbooks as well. There's 2 cookbooks. They were like, I call the books that I've created like my book babies. They took so much love and sweat and tears and everything else to produce. But again, use those things. There's lots of tasty recipes in there to get you going on the first 3, the produce. The products, again, you just have to be very systematic. Again, using my books that are there, the Heal Endometriosis Naturally, or How I Ended My Endometriosis. These things are there. And again, go back through some of the podcasts because they're going to give you some ideas and direction too. And lastly, as I said, there is change coming up for me. I'll share more over the next couple of months, and I'm going to be sunsetting some programs. But at the moment, you can still do the 21-day Endobot challenge. Now, the idea of the challenge was to challenge you, funnily enough, to start listening to yourself and challenging you to journal in the morning as well. And it's a wonderful program. I mean, the life-changing, just that program on its own. It just gives you a taster of what it's like to listen to yourself and also engage with the content. And then, of course, as I say, there's the Endometriosis Academy, which is a 12-month program, which is a big investment in yourself because you're worth it. So that is me today. I wanted to share my journal. It's listening to myself has got me to a pain-free body, is getting me to where I'm making big changes on where I'm going to be living, changes on where I'm moving forward, changing how I view myself, how I think. And I know that you can get that too. If you're feeling scared right now, it's okay. Just write down your thoughts and feelings and your fears and allow some compassion to develop for yourself, and know that you have everything. You have all the ingredients within you to heal yourself. Just never give up. And to your health. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Heal Endometriosis Naturally with Wendy K Laidlaw. And I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and rate us. If you're interested in learning more, you can download your top 5 jumpstart tips at healendometriosisnaturally.com and jump on the VIP email list. Remember to keep you number one, for the world needs a healthy you.